Good evening. Weeknight, we begin this hour with breaking news. Donald Trump just announced that Israel and Hamas have signed off on the first phase of a peace plan. That is all we know at this stage. We're going to be joined in a moment by Laura Barron Lopez at the White House. But for now, Simone, you and I have talked very often about what actually goes into these negotiations.
Yes. Now, it's our understanding, and we'll have Laura Barron Lopez from the White House in just a moment, who's on the beat, who's been covering this. But what has been happening is that there were negotiations. Obviously, earlier today, there was a very dramatic scene at the White House where during this meeting, if you will, with the president, Secretary Rubio passes a note to the president. Rubio then comes and replaces Susie Wiles sitting there, White House Chief of Staff. The president reads the note out loud, noting that they will need him soon because they're very close to a deal between Hamas. Very close to a deal in these negotiations between Hamas and Israel. Now, to back up, and, I'm no Andrea Mitchell here, but we have been talking about this for a while. The details of what this is are going to be very important. My first question when I heard this is, well, who exactly were they negotiating with? Because if we remember, over the course of the last couple of months, really, the negotiating leadership of Hamas has been decimated, taken out in various different ways by the government of Israel in these operations that were led by Mossad. So usually, if a deal was actually reached and everything is on paper and it's been signed, there would be a lot of pomp and circumstance. You would hear from the president, frankly, very directly from the White House, perhaps in Cross Hall, iconic hallway. That is where President Obama, when the raid on Osama bin Laden, he was killed, happened. That is where he spoke from. Donald Trump, we may see him from his desk in the Oval Office, right? He may decide to go to the briefing room. But again, we're looking to get details. We're scant on the details. But if a deal has been signed, who signed that deal? What are the contours of that deal? And what are the actionable items? We have been here before where they say, the White House says we have a deal, and come to find out the details are not as monumental as we have thought before.
And, Michael, while we wait for those details, one detail we do know is that a spokesperson for the Qatari government has affirmed that, in fact, an agreement has been reached with all parties.
Yeah, okay, let's see. I'm a trust but verify kind of guy. I want to see what the deal says. I want to see what Hamas has exactly signed off on. We've been here before. There's a lot that's going on domestically, politically for this president. And this just happens to land at the right time to sort of create another lane of conversation. Now, with that in mind, how serious is it? Are all the parties in the Middle East apprised of this, signed off on this? Does Hamas agree? Because what the president says in his tweet is, we agreed upon line as the first steps towards.
Right. This is
the first steps. I mean, so everybody, let's slow the roll here and start those peace in the Middle East conversation. This is the first step. Phases that, A, we don't know the contours of, B, we don't know how many other steps are going to be involved in this or that are necessary. This is a complicated dance, obviously. A lot of players have a lot of interest at stake here. And so I just want to hear more. I mean, I appreciate the tweet, but it's just a tweet. It's not something that's come out of the State Department. It's something that's come from Netanyahu's office. Yes, we have other parties that are starting to say there is a deal. But again, no one is saying what the deal is.
I do think it's important to note that the humanitarian toll that this war between Israel and Hamas has taken is on the people that have been devastated by this, the Palestinian people, the Israeli people. This war has been raging, particularly this recent iteration triggered after that very fateful day on October 7th, where Hamas attacked Israel. Literally, it was just harrowing to think about it. We're over 2 years later now. It seems to be the first phase of a deal in the peace plan in Gaza. I think things to look for are, what do other partners say, right? Other partners in the region. What else do Western allies say? Remember, not a week ago, about a week and a half ago, during UNGA, the UN General Assembly in New York, a number of Western allies recognized the Palestinian state And they gave speeches, everyone from President Macron to the UK, the Prime Minister of the UK, so on and so forth. This was monumental. Other countries obviously have done so previously, well in advance in the past, but to have so many Western allies, major players recognize Palestine as a state was also a monumental piece in this. Notably, the United States did not participate in that. The president came out.
The partners walk away from a Palestinian state once they've gone out publicly and said that's what they support.
Well, again, this is why we need to look at the details of the plan, because for everyone, they have always said, except Prime Minister Netanyahu, that a two-state solution is the only solution. I believe we now have Laura Barron-Lopez. She is joining us now from the White House. Laura, take us inside what you know at this hour. We, according to the president and the Qatari Prime Minister, there is a deal.
Yes, there's a first phase agreement. There's an agreement to the first phase of this deal. So obviously there are other points to the initial peace plan that the president released a week ago when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was here at the White House. And this first phase of the agreement initially was supposed to include a ceasefire, the release of all hostages in Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Now, according to the president's post tonight, he didn't exactly mention Palestinian prisoners in there. So there's a number of details that we're still waiting to hear. But all day long, Simone, at this White House, we'd been waiting to see if there was going to be some update because the Middle Eastern envoy Steve Witkoff, as well as the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner, arrived in Egypt for those peace deal negotiation talks with the Qataris, with Turkish leaders, between Israel and Hamas. And the president, a few hours before this announcement on his Truth Social platform, said that he thought that they were very close, that he may end up traveling to the Middle East this weekend on Saturday or Sunday in the hopes that he would be there for some type of ceasefire signing. But again, we don't know if they are going to be able to reach a full deal by this weekend.
I think, Laura, that's the nub of all of this. Are you hearing anything specifically or even tangentially around the rest of the deal that touches on the Palestinian state, that touches on the lines of demarcation in the region, the balance of power, what this looks like? The hostage piece, important. Humanitarian peace, good to get that settled. But then the rest of this seems to me to be a little bit more difficult ahead. And like you said, and to get it done by this weekend could be tough.
It could be. And no, unfortunately, Michael, we're not hearing whether or not those other key elements of this deal are going to be falling into place. We saw that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who also serves as the national security advisor to the president, was here as well, was standing next to the president, passing him a note earlier today saying that they were very close to a deal. And we saw an AP photographer take a photo of that note. So that's how we know that that's what it said on there. And then later on, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance were in the Oval with President Trump, appearing to talk through the potential particulars of at least this first phase agreement of a deal. But again, there is a lot of information, I should stress, that we still don't have, especially if they think that they are going to come to an agreement in the next few days.